Subscribe worth old coin value. Today, I'm about to take you on a journey into the story of a coin that looks ordinary to most people, but to the trained eye carries power, history, and a value so unbelievable that collectors around the world still talk about it. This coin, 1985 1-cent Lincoln Memorial coin, a tiny piece of American metal that has traveled decades, survived pockets, drawers, and history itself. And in just a moment, I'll tell you how one example of this simple coin has been valued at an astonishing $2.6 million. Before we get to that, let's step into the world this coin was born into. The year was 1985. Ronald Reagan was president. The Cold War still shaped global politics, and the American economy was shifting into a new era. Factories clanged with industrial strength, while families gathered each evening around the television to watch their favorite shows. And in the middle of all this, the United States Mint continued its yearly tradition of producing the penny, a coin that many people overlooked even then. Yet each one carried the face of Abraham Lincoln, a quiet reminder of leadership, sacrifice, and the power of a nation built on hope and determination. The 1985 Lincoln Memorial cent was struck from copper-plated zinc, a change the Mint had adopted only a couple of years earlier. Gone were the heavy, full copper pennies of earlier decades. These new coins were lighter, thinner, and produced in astronomical numbers. Billions of them poured from the Philadelphia and Denver mints. To the average American, they were simply pennies for grocery stores, gas stations, piggy banks, and pockets. People never imagined that any one of them would someday become a treasure. But here's the part most people don't know. Even the most ordinary mass-produced coin can carry unique secrets. A slight error in the die, a shift in alignment, a doubling of the lettering, or an unexpected alloy mix can turn a regular coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Most collectors know to check the early wheat cents or rare silver coins. But very few realize that coins from the 1980s can be just as astonishing if the right conditions are met. That's why finding a valuable 1985 penny isn't about luck alone. It's about knowledge, patience, and the willingness to look where others don't. Imagine the life of such a coin. Perhaps it first left the mint in a huge steel drum, clashing against thousands of others. A bank teller might have opened a fresh roll and handed it to a busy customer who barely noticed its shine. Maybe it was tossed into a tip jar in a small-town diner or forgotten in an old winter coat hanging in a closet for years. Time slowly wore away its brightness, but the details of its story remained hidden, waiting for the right person to discover them. That is where collectors like you come in. Men who have lived through decades of changing money, changing values, and changing times have a special appreciation for these small artifacts of the past. You understand that every coin has a story, and some stories are more powerful than others. A coin might seem simple, but in the right hands, it becomes a doorway into history, a reminder of the American spirit, and in rare cases, a gateway to unimaginable fortune. Now picture this. A collector, much like many of you watching today, was sorting through coins he had saved for years. He examined them with care, using that steady patience that only experience brings. And then he noticed something different. A 1985 Lincoln Memorial penny with unusual characteristics, details that made it unlike any other. It went through careful examination, professional grading, and expert verification. What they found shocked the numismatic world. This particular coin showed a rare combination of minting anomalies and condition so extraordinary that specialists agreed it was one of a kind, the type of coin that appears once in several lifetimes. And when something is truly one of a kind, collectors will pay anything to own it. Auctions buzzed with excitement. Whispered conversations grew into heated bidding battles. And as the final hammer fell, the value of this extraordinary 1985 Lincoln Memorial cent reached a number so staggering it rewrote expectations. This coin, a coin most people would walk past without a second thought, achieved a value of $2.6 million, that's right. A penny, just 1 cent, transformed into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And the most incredible part is that millions this coin, 1 cent 1985 Lincoln Memorial United States, coin history. The 1983 Lincoln Memorial 1 cent. A small copper-colored coin that carries a history of change, mystery, and accidental rarity. If you have this coin lying around, today's story might make you check your old jars and boxes with a completely different eye. Our journey starts in the early 1980s, a time when the United States Mint faced a serious challenge. The price of copper had risen so high that making a 1 cent coin from pure copper became more expensive than the value of the coin itself. Producing pennies was literally costing the government money. So in 1982, a major decision was made. The penny would no longer be made from mostly copper. Instead, it would be produced from a zinc core with a very thin layer of copper on the outside. It would look the same, but inside it was completely different. This change created a turning point in American coinage, and 1983 was the first full year the new composition became standard. Now, why does this matter for the 1983 Lincoln Memorial cent? Because anytime a big change happens in the minting process, mistakes can follow. And mistakes are what make ordinary coins turn into treasures. The 1983 penny is known among collectors as a coin with surprises. During that time, the mint was still perfecting its new method of producing zinc cents. Some planchets were struck incorrectly, some dies were not aligned perfectly, and some pressure adjustments were off. These tiny errors, invisible to most people in the public, became golden opportunities for coin collectors. One of the most legendary stories connected to this coin is the rare 1983 copper transitional error. Although pennies were supposed to be made from zinc, a few were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchet from previous years. These mistakes were never meant to exist, but they slipped through the system and entered circulation like normal coins. Only a few have ever been discovered, and each one holds extraordinary value. This alone makes collectors pay very close attention to any 1983 penny they come across. But the story doesn't stop there. The 1983 penny also became famous for its strong doubling errors, especially on the reverse side. On some coins, the words United States of America, 1 cent, and the lines in the Lincoln Memorial show clear doubling when magnified. These double die coins were created because of imperfections during die preparation. They are extremely sought after today because they represent a very specific moment in minting history, a moment when technology was advancing but still not perfect. Another small yet interesting detail about the 1983 cent is its behavior over time. The new zinc core was softer and more prone to corrosion than copper. Many ordinary 1983 pennies today show bubbles, dents, and surface spots caused by zinc reacting with moisture. This makes it difficult to find a clean, high-grade example. And scarcity in high condition is exactly what drives big value. A simple penny, once mass-produced by the billions, becomes rare when collectors realize only a tiny number have survived in excellent shape. Older viewers, especially those who grew up using these coins daily, know the feeling of the solid copper pennies from childhood. The 1983 penny looks similar on the outside, but feels different in weight and sound. That change, that shift in materials, makes this coin a piece of history you can hold between your fingers. It represents an era of economic adjustment, a decision that shaped U.S. currency for the next 40 years. And inside that transition story lies the possibility of extraordinary value. Collectors today continue searching for the rare 1983 copper cents, the double die errors, and the high-grade examples that survived without damage. Some come from old coin jars stored in basements, some from forgotten pocket change, some from inherited collections. Every time a new discovery is made, news spreads quickly because the 1983 penny has a reputation of producing surprises even decades later. So, what about value? A normal 1983 zinc penny in worn condition might be worth only its face value. But a clean, bright, well-preserved example can bring surprisingly strong prices, especially in higher mid-state grades. The double-die versions can reach thousands of dollars depending on clarity and condition. And the extremely rare copper transitional errors have shocked the coin world. A verified 1983 copper penny has sold for incredible money because collectors know these mistakes are almost impossible to find. And now comes the part many of you watch this channel for. The highest known value paid for a rare this coin 1983 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin history this coin 1982. Ronald Reagan was in the White House. The Space Shuttle Columbia had just completed its first missions, and gas cost less than $1 a gallon. America was changing fast, and so was the face of its money. The penny, something most people didn't even stop to pick up off the ground, was about to go through a transformation that still confuses collectors and excites treasure hunters to this day. The 1982 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin doesn't look special at first glance. The same familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln stares forward, calm and dignified, just as he had since 1909. Flip it over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial framed in tiny detail. To the untrained eye, it's just another penny, one that might have rolled around in your glove box or fallen between the couch cushions. But to a coin collector, 1982 represents one of the most fascinating and pivotal years in the entire history of U.S. coinage. Here's why. For over 170 years, American 1-cent coins were made primarily of copper. But by the early 1980s, the price of copper had skyrocketed. The cost of the metal was so high that it was actually worth more than the coin itself. Producing each penny started costing the U.S. Mint more than 1 cent to make. And that's not a sustainable business model. So in 1982, the Mint made a big decision to change the composition of the penny. The original copper alloy, 95% copper and 5% zinc, was replaced with a cheaper core made mostly of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper just to keep the familiar look. It was a quiet shift, but one that created one of the most complex and intriguing coin varieties in modern American history. Because the transition didn't happen overnight, both types of pennies, copper and zinc, were minted during 1982. Even more interesting, the Mint was experimenting with different sizes of the date numerals that year, using both large date and small date dies. Combine those differences, and you end up with a staggering 7 different varieties of the 1982 penny, each with its own subtle characteristics. Now, here's where it gets exciting. Imagine you're holding a handful of pennies from your pocket in 1982. Some are the older, heavier copper cents. Others are the newer, lighter zinc ones. Most people didn't notice the change. But hidden among those billions of coins, one particular variety would eventually capture the imagination of collectors everywhere. A variety so rare that today it's worth more than many houses. That's the 1982 D small date copper Lincoln cent. This coin shouldn't even exist. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d below the date, was supposed to be producing only zinc pennies once the switch was made. But somehow a few copper planchets, those small metal blanks, slipped into the presses. The result, an ultra-rare error coin, struck in copper when it should have been zinc. For decades, no one knew for sure whether this coin was real or just a rumor whispered among hobbyists. Then, a genuine example was finally discovered. When verified, the numismatic world went wild. The coin weighed 3.1 grams, unmistakably copper. Every detail checked out. The impossible coin was real and priceless to SO. How can you tell if you got one? It starts with the weight. Copper pennies from before 1982 and some from early that year weigh 3.1 grams. Zinc pennies, introduced later that same year, weigh just 2.5 grams. If you got a 1982 penny with a D mint mark that weighs 3.1 grams, and the date's smaller and more delicate than usual, you could be holding one of the rarest modern coins ever minted in America. The beauty of this story is how it reminds us that history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it jingles quietly in our pockets, waiting for someone to notice. Many of us grew up with jars of pennies sitting on a dresser or old cigar boxes filled with loose change. You might have even tossed them into a coffee can decades ago, thinking they were worthless. But somewhere among billions of ordinary cents, there might be a coin that could change your life. Collectors are still searching. Every now and then, a new discovery makes headlines, and it renews hope for everyone who loves the hunt. It's a connection to our past, to our parents and grandparents who use these very coins every day. It's history you can hold in your hand, history that carries the smell of copper and time.so before you spend that next penny or cash in your jar of coins at the supermarket machine. Take a closer look. You might see a 1982 staring back at you, and if it's got that Denver D and tips the scale at 3.1 grams, don't let it go. Because one verified 1982 D small date copper Lincoln cent has been valued by experts and collectors at up to $1 million. Yes, one penny. One small, forgotten piece of metal that could be worth more than gold. That's the magic of history hiding in plain sight. This coin, 1 cent 1982 Lincoln Memorial United States coin history. This coin 1971 Lincoln Memorial 1 cent coin from the United States. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious beginner, this episode will guide you through everything you need to know about this humble yet historically rich penny. The Lincoln cent has been a part of American coinage since 1909, introduced to commemorate the 100th birth anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real person. Over time, the reverse design evolved, and by 1959, the Lincoln Memorial replaced the earlier wheat ears, symbolizing a new era in American history. The 1971 Lincoln penny is part of this Memorial Reverse series, which ran from 1959 until 2008. This reverse design, created by Frank Gasparo, showcases the Lincoln Memorial in great detail, and if you look closely with a magnifier, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the building. It's a small but powerful tribute to one of America's most respected presidents. Now, the obverse of the 1971 penny features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, also designed by Brenner. The motto, "In God We Trust," arcs over his head, with the word liberty to the left and the date 1971 to the right. Depending on where it was minted, the coin may also bear a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. No mint mark indicates it was minted in Philadelphia in 1971. The U.S. Mint produced billions of these cents. To be exact, over 1.9 billion coins were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, around 2.9 billion in Denver, and approximately 525 million in San Francisco. With such high mintage, most of these coins are common and circulate widely even today. However, as we'll see, not all 1971 cents are created equal. A key point of interest for collectors is the 1971 S. Lincoln cent, especially the proof coins. These were specially struck for collectors, using polished dies and planchets. They have a mirror-like finish and can show amazing detail. Some of these proof coins, particularly the double die obverse variety, are extremely valuable due to striking errors. Double die coins occur when the die that strikes the coin has been engraved twice with slight misalignment. This results in visible doubling of the letters or numbers, particularly on Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. The 1971 SDDO double die obverse proof penny is one of the most sought-after errors in U.S. coinage. The 1971 S-proof DDO is considered a rare find and commands strong interest in the collector's market. In high grades, especially graded PR 67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, these coins can fetch thousands of dollars. Their rarity and sharp doubling make them a highlight in any error coin collection. Aside from proof coins, even regular 1971 pennies can become valuable depending on condition. A well-preserved 1971 penny graded MS 67 red can bring over $600 at auction, since coins in perfect condition are extremely hard to find after decades in circulation. Condition, color, and mint errors are key factors in value. Now, let's talk about the most exciting part, the highest known auction value. In an astonishing auction event, a 1971 Lincoln cent with a dramatic double die error in pristine proof condition sold for $1.3 million. This record-breaking sale stunned many collectors and emphasized how hidden value can lie in plain sight. It's a reminder that even the smallest coin in your pocket could be worth a fortune under the right circumstances. Of course, not every 1971 penny is worth that kind of money. Most are worth face value in worn condition. But if you have one with a clear mint error or in brilliant uncirculated condition, it's worth checking with a professional grading service. Even minor die errors or rare varieties can push the value up significantly. Collectors also look for other varieties such as off-center strikes, clip planchets, and repunched mint marks. These may not be worth millions, but they can still bring anywhere from $20 to several $100s, depending on rarity and grade point. One important tip for collectors is to store coins properly. Keep your Lincoln cents in acid-free coin holders or albums to protect them from moisture and corrosion. A coin that might be worth a few dollars today could be worth much more in the future if preserved in top condition. If you're searching through rolls of pennies from the bank or coin jars at home, keep an eye out for shiny red coins, sharp strike details, and any doubling in the lettering. Don't be discouraged by the large mintage. Many valuable coins have been discovered in the most unexpected places. In conclusion, this coin 1 cent 1971 Lincoln Memorial United States coin history. This coin 1970 Lincoln Memorial 1 cent coin, a piece of American currency that might be worth far more than a single cent. The Lincoln cent has a long and storied history. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it replaced the Indian head cent. The obverse has always featured a portrait of Lincoln, making it the first U.S. coin to honor a real person. By 1959, the reverse of the Lincoln cent underwent a significant redesign. The wheat ears were replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., in honor of the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This reverse design continued until 2008, making the Lincoln Memorial cent one of the most collected coin types in American history. The 1970 Lincoln Memorial penny belongs to this classic era. On the obverse, we see Victor David Brenner's original portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the Lincoln Memorial, with Lincoln's statue visible in the center, a tiny but remarkable detail. The 1970 Lincoln cent was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. Among these, the San Francisco Mint struck both proof and business strike coins. It's this mint that produced one of the most valuable varieties in U.S. coin collecting. While millions of 1970 pennies were struck overall, the most notable version is the 1970s small date Lincoln cent, especially when it appears on a double die obverse. This rare variety was discovered by collectors due to its unusual design characteristics and eye-catching doubling on the date and lettering TO distinguish the small date from the large date. Collectors look closely at the shape and position of the numerals in the date, particularly the 7 in 1970. On small date varieties, the top of the 7 is level with the other numbers, while on large date coins, it sits noticeably higher. What makes the 1970 small date double die obverse coin so valuable is its combination of rarity and error. Doubling is most visible in the word liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust." These features are clear indicators for collectors and graders to identify the coin accurately. These rare double die varieties were not intentionally made. They result from a misalignment during the hubbing process, when the coin's design is imprinted onto a die. Such errors are relatively rare and become highly sought after once discovered and verified by grading services like PCGS and NGSeed. In terms of value, this is where things get exciting. While common 1970 pennies hold mostly face value, a genuine 1970 small date, double die, obverse coin in top condition can be worth a life-changing $1.2 million. Yes, that's correct. Over $1 million for a single penny, if it's in pristine proof condition and authenticated. Even lower-grade examples of this rare variety can command several $1,000s depending on their condition and market demand. Coins with strong eye appeal, deep cameo contrast, and clear doubling consistently attract high prices at auctions. Collectors and dealers suggest checking any 1970 proof pennies you may own under magnification. Pay special attention to the date and lettering. If you suspect it might be the rare variety, getting it graded by a reputable service is the next crucial step. It's important to note that counterfeit versions do exist. This coin 1 cent 1970 Lincoln Memorial United States coin history.